how about a little Python REPL? So, if you don't know, the Python REPL, also sometimes referred to as the Python shell. What is it? First of all, REPL, it's the read, eval, print loop. So what's happening here is you're firing up a command and it's going to read your input. It's going to evaluate it as if it's running a program. It's going to print the output. It's going to do it again. Rinse, lather, repeat. Pretty simple item. So how do I use it? Well, at the command prompt, you either type Python or Python 3, maybe Python 2, depending on how you're doing stuff. I have both installed, so typically I would type a Python 3. But that's not very helpful. So how do I actually use it? So in doing some investigation of the Python shell, the REPL, I ran across the help command. Never actually used it before. It was actually quite helpful. Let's see if I can. Novel concept for an engineer to use the help command. So if you just type help as a command, it'll say, hey, look, here's all kind of stuff. It'll give you a good link to some Python tutorials. But there's also some really helpful thing here. If you are wondering, like what modules do you have on your system, it will scan your system and it'll tell you, it'll give you a list of all of the available modules. You have all these modules available and you're like, hey, what do they do? Well, you can type in the name of a module. Say I pick UUID and it's going to tell me, here's the reference, the man page of the UUID module. You would navigate this like the way you would a normal more or less command using sort of VI, backward, forward kinds of things. You can hit Q to get out of it. But besides that, you also, there's help here for basically the entire Python syntax. So, hey, what keywords exist in Python? There is the list of known keywords. And any of those you could type into the prompt as well. And it'll come back and tell you, hey, what's a lambda? What's that mean? What am I using it? If you don't know what a lambda is, the man page probably isn't going to help. But if you do, it'll give you some additional information. All kinds of things. If you want to know even more, like there's concepts or topics as well. And so there's a list of topics that are Python specific it'll tell you about. So imagine you want to know about, I don't know, how about objects? And it's going to tell you about Python objects as well. How to create an object, what's it mean, all kinds of stuff like that. So let's get out of help. So help is sort of the shell inside of Python. You can get out of it with quit or command D, whatever it is you normally exit a running process with. And the Python shell, we're back in it, does all kinds of fancy things. So it's a really good calculator. So we can do some simple arithmetic. You could probably do even more complex arithmetic. We can have it print stuff out for us. Like all good programmers, the first thing we do is a little hello world. And so simple things like this. So I can start to do some slightly more complicated things. So imagine I have a string. This is a string. And so now I have this variable string. For some reason, it didn't print out for me though. But I can say, hey, foo is my string. So this would be the print part of the REPL, the read, evaluate, print loop. And so it told me a string. And so what do I do with a string? So one of the things you can do is once you have a variable name, you can hit the dot and then you can hit the tab command or the tab key and it'll give you a list of possible commands available for your object. So, I don't know, maybe I want to split it and I want to turn my string into an array. In the process of doing this, I was like, hey, I'm going to count it. And it was like, oh, wait, that's not how you count an array, the number of elements in an array. And I was like, well, I actually don't know what the count method does. So back to my help command, I can just type in foo.split. Oops, split, not spit. That's a different command. And I can say, hey, tell me what the count is. And this will actually evaluate the item. And because it's a function, it'll return the function. Python's awesome like that. And it told me, hey, really what this is just the number of occurrences of a particular item within a string. So super helpful there. If I wanted to instead, I could, I was trying to find the number of elements in my list, and so count didn't give it to me, so I went back to my help, and I said foo. I'm going to split it again, and this time it gave me the class list, so foo.split returns a list, and it told me all of the elements that are available to me, and I can see that, oh, double underscore, len underscore would give that to me, so I could come back here in a very ugly way. I can get the length of my elements, and I know there's 4 elements in my string now. So, and then I can do all the regular stuff. So imagine I wanted to print out each of those elements individually. I'm going to enumerate over that for val in foo.split. I'm going to, and I always am a colon forgetter, and then I can print out the value now. Those of you in the room who know what I'm doing can tell, oh, he forgot indentation again, but it'll tell you, hey, it expected an indented block, right? So the eval loop is expecting good old Python. So if you want to do it, you still got to use some good indentation. Control A. And now it's going to print each one. So one of the things I noticed is it does tell you, hey, dummy, you need some indentation. So if you have the 3 chevrons or 3 greater thans, that's the normal prompt like we have here. But if you get into where you need some indentation, it switches to the dots. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell you how many spaces you need, but it'll tell you, hey, dummy, it's time to get some indentation. So. One of the other things as I was investigating the REPL is I was wondering how could I write a program and then sort of stop halfway and get into the shell. I'm a very lazy programmer. I like to kind of do stuff in little bits and test and test and test over instead of writing big stuff. And so I'll just give you a quick, I wrote this really simple Python, oh, probably wrong screen. Here we go. Really simple Python here. So really what I was trying to do is I was looking at my class, an advertisement, and I gave it a couple things. I gave it a headline and a body, and I put some things around it. You'll notice here, import code. This is a module I'm importing which will allow me to interact with this class itself. So if I were to run my program like normal, you'll notice, boom, it popped into the shell. But actually what happened is it executed the code block. I should have kept my, let me get my code back up. Trying to do this sort of sideways now. Where am I at? I'm in POC Python. This is so exciting watching me type, isn't it? Okay, so I have my my program back up, and so what happened here is it instantiated the class for me already, and then it jumped into the interactive shell. You'll notice that it printed out down here that it was jumping into the shell. When you call the interact, you can give it a starting and an ending message so you know you're done. And I'm also passing the local variables. So I could do some things like I can instantiate my advertise. I should have. So I have an advertisement. Some other cool things I can do in the shell here is I can get a list of all of my methods that are available to me for my object. I can also print out my object. Here you'll note yeah, sorry. Shift key is fundamental. So it's telling me the object space. But if I really want to know the interesting things about my object, I gonna turn it into a dictionary, and now I have a dictionary that's telling me the information about my object. So I can get the methods, I can inspect into it as well. Couple more things. One of the other things that are pretty useful is, imagine I was doing something really complicated. So I'm gonna go back to my string. This is a test, and so I have this string, and then I just imagine instead of just one simple command, I actually had a whole bunch of commands, and I'm like, the output I just got was the best thing ever. I've had to do all this stuff. Maybe it was destructive. I can't repeat it. One of the great things about the REPL is the underscore command. So underscore will give you the last value that was printed. So now my bar command contains the output from the previous command. So underscore was my list. This is a test, and I've now set it to bar, and now I have it available to me as well. Couple other quick things. If you aren't aware and you are not quite sure how to write good code, you can always import this, and there's a nice little poem that'll tell you the Zen of Python. One last useful thing, if you look in your home directory in your Python history, you'll see all of the commands you previously did inside your shell. If you want to, you could copy these out, put them in your program. You could work things out interactively in your shell and then copy them into your application as you were going along. Let's see, interactive help, helpful things. For some reason, the standard Python doesn't implement tab completion for you. You can implement it by importing a couple modules, telling it how to parse and bind to the tab key, and then you can call it with your Python startup as the script to start up, and when you get it, you'll then get tab complete. Thanks so much for your time. Again, my name is Matt Brown. I work for Quantifi. You can visit us at quantifi.ai, and as always, we're hiring. So feel free to come see me later, and I'd love to talk to you about what we're doing with Python, as well as Ruby and some Angular.
Awesome. So anybody have any questions for Matt before we let him off stage? We got a question right here from Scott.
So let's say you're working in your editor over here.
Yep.
In your REPL, and you're executing the code that's in your editor.
Yeah.
Any clean ways to get the REPL to reload once you make changes?
You know, that's a really good question. So I can tell you in Ruby, there's a way you just type reload bang. In Python, is it just reload?
Yeah, you have to rebootstrap. You have to call a reload on that module to get it to pick up the changes, because it won't pick them up otherwise. It never rereads the code on the file system until you call, I think it's called reload or rebootstrap or bootstrap. I can't remember is it reload?
Python has a magic to use after that. So the
Okay, so it was the IPython REPL has a way. Nice. Okay, that'll auto reload the
So it's
modules.
watching the file system for you, changes to the file it notices, reloads. Yeah.
Okay, any more questions for
Matt?
Matt?
One in the back.
So this whole Python history file.
Yep.
Clayton back here tells me he doesn't believe that really exists. Is that a certain version of Python, or did you commit something?
So Python 3 by default did it for me. The docs say that's what it does. I didn't do intentionally anything special that.
What you're saying is he just doesn't know.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying your mileage may vary. At mine, it worked.
I was gonna say I think he left Python at Python 2, so
Yeah.
he's not experienced Python 3. You know, Clayton, Python 3 is where it's at now. Any other questions for Matt? All right, back here, Sam.
Is it possible for REPL to execute your code, your script
Yes. So I was doing as part of this in the code module, there's a way for you to read in the lines of your file one at a time. You'd have to do some work to make it happen, but you certainly could do that.
When you started saying that I want to start doing something, but if I want to do something else, I should be able to go away and come back.
Yeah. It sounds like, so I make no claims of Python expertise, but I believe there's lots of things similar to that. I know you can do some of that in things like the Python notebooks is kind of the feel that you're going for. And then you always have the power of the 10 fingers, and you can make those things happen for yourself.
There's a really good talk from PyCon 2016 called So You Think You Can PDB. It'll teach you how to do that.
So you think you can...
So you think you can PDB?
PDB.
The presenter of that talk is in the room. But he may only have Python 2 knowledge. Is the problem? All right. Any last questions for Matt? All right. Thank you, Matt, very much.
Thanks
Let's
so
give him a
much.
big round of applause.